No? Now you're shy. You're like, wait a minute, say hi to... There's somebody looking at me.
I don't mind.
Well, welcome, Evenness. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me, Deltran.
Now, for people who aren't as familiar with you yet, tell us what you do.
Alright, so my name's Evenus, also known as Evenus Hinata in other certain communities. I am a Hinata-focused YouTuber. I basically do arena content with Hinata, I do true solos with Hinata. I, outside of YouTube, also stream, which is mostly arena gameplay and arena assault, and sometimes other stuff like summons and solo attempts. And just generally, I try to be a very active part in communities, also other YouTubers, Reddit, and similar.
No, that's awesome. Has soloing affected how you build team comps or how you approach that, or does it not affect it? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
There's not that many things that intertwine between solos and team building, I feel, because team building is mostly about certain characters covering certain characters' weaknesses. So, for example, Hinata can't deal with blue mages, obvious example being Reinhardt. So you want some way to relinquish that. Have somebody else deal with Reinhardt so that you can get rid of all threats that are in the meta. And in solos, you're basically on your own. You have to rely on AI manipulation and somehow tricking your way out of situations. For example, in the Sias Grand Hero battle, Hinata obviously can't tank a Glacis, he would get obliterated with his 21 resistance.
Right.
So I have to go out of my way, get Sias to move into a position where I can nuke him with Ignis before he can hit me. So I would say it helps a lot with Arena in specific, because Arena is a lot about, especially if you face high pressure enemies like Bolins and Reinhardts, where if you don't figure out the perfect plays in two or three turns, they're in front of your face and they blow up someone. I'd say, while it doesn't affect team building very much, especially the AI knowledge that you gain from soloing is what is most beneficial, I'd say.
Yeah, and I can see that, because a lot of people that I talk to, and I have to admit, I probably don't do any justice towards this at all, because all of my build videos that I do are always one hero, and not talking about team composition. But a lot of people are like, oh yeah, no, I want to have 4 islands, so to speak, going into this fight. And yeah, what you were addressing just a moment ago is that oh, we have to compensate for the weaknesses, which makes a lot of sense. Yet it's funny seeing soloists have that. Have their +10 wipe a map. It makes people think, oh, that's exactly what I want. I want a team of 4 of those, Yeah,
I understand. And I mean, it's hard. I thought myself, how can I incorporate team building into an educational video? Because, many people do build videos where they explain, okay, for example, this is Sword Heart, this is how you can optimally use him and such. But there's no cookie-cutter recipe for how can you build a perfect team. It's always going to come down to understanding how is the meta shaped, and you can use different approaches. You can run 100 arena assault runs and see, okay, which are the characters I face. You can go through tier lists, you can look through YouTubers' content and see which enemies they look at as threats.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, it always comes down to checking out what the threats are and actually covering all of these threats. And until you do that, it's going to be a struggle depending on how many threats you can cover. If you only have, for example, Cecilia, that's a threat to your team, but everybody else in the meta you can cover, it could be that one in every 20 arena matches or so, you might get screwed over by a Cecilia. But there's ways around it, of course, with an AI manipulation as well. But
right.
It's obviously, the better your team is constructed, the more it can deal with all the threats in the meta, the easier arena is going to be for you. And trust me, at some point it's actually kind of boring when you only face armors all the time, and you have a team that's covering all the armors. Then sometimes arena is over in 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and that's going to be it. You
mentioned already that you stream a lot of arena assault. What score do you do it regularly? Are you very into arena assault?
I am very into Arena and Arena Assault. For Arena, I have been tier 20 staying since about July or September, I'd say. That was about the time where I rolled a lot of Ikes and started merging up. And then the time around Hero Fest, where Brave Ike came out was like the moment where I realized, okay, I have this like +3 regular Ike now, but he's not gonna get me anywhere. I can't merge him up reliably without waiting for a banner to pull on. And that's basically where I started looking into, okay, how can I have a free-to-play tier 20 team that I can work on? And then I gathered information in different communities, such as the Reddit Discord and other communities. And basically deduced, okay, let's choose a 3 to 4 star character that's available, mergeable, and just somebody who I like, so it's obviously fun to play. And I started merging Hinata from there, and it basically, like, from there until now, I've applied this method over and over to make sure that my arena score holds. I have a +10 Hinata, Oboro, Azama, as well as Kagero, which I can use most of the time, and they boost my score by a lot.
It seems like you have a full set of teams, and you're able to stay in tier 20, and you're free to play. Just so I know, when did you start playing Heroes? Did you play it when it first opened, or?
Yes, I started with launch.
Okay, all right.
And I have bought some things. I'm not entirely free to play. I have bought the bundles. So, like, a term I see thrown around is like it used to be $4 to play, and nowadays it's like $14 that I expended. But basically what I'm trying to do is just, I am in that range where I say orbs are a very casual spender, unfriendly currency. If you want a consistent value out of your orbs, you're gonna have to buy a lot of orbs. That's like, the more orbs you have, the more consistent your result is gonna be. And I want more of the things like the bundles. They're affordable, and I know what I get for the value. How is your Arena Assault experience? That's actually something I'm curious about.
You know what? I am terrible with sticking with Arena Assault. I just, for some reason, I never seem to sit down and do it. I don't know why. I guess maybe it's because I'm okay with Arena because it's sort of a one-and-done mentality, and if I only do 3 right now, I can come back later, whereas Arena Assault, no, I feel like... I don't know why that upfront investment of like having to do them all at once and not at all for some reason gets to me. So I'm usually pretty low. I forget what my average score is, but and actually I tell this to other people who are just as lazy as I am. Take your best team into Arena Assault for that first round. Get as high of a ranking as you can, and then if you're really lazy, just bring good teams. Make sure you have enough to fill up the roster, but just do the beginner or the easy level all the way through, because that's enough to get you it's enough to get you a third to half of the way up the ladder, depending on how things are going, and it's super easy.
I think a lot of the player base actually doesn't enjoy Arena Assault that much, because it really requires you to not only invest into your strongest team, which I think is the most fun part, like having those favorites that you absolutely invest a lot into, but you also need like 4-star +10 merged units with like Triangle Adept and Breaker skills and stuff, and you need like, for the people especially that aren't in like the 730 plus range, they need like at least 4 Reinhardt counters and like 4 Lin counters, and like it's really hard to get those done with like without investing in the characters. Right. So I feel like it might be disincentivizing a lot for the people that aren't as invested to even try investing. Like, whenever I see complaints about Arena Assault, oftentimes it's like, oh, I don't enjoy playing Arena Assault. It's just Reinhardt 6 times over and over, and I just have to beat him or lose. I don't have that many well-invested units since I am free-to-play. Like, for example, I use a budget Selif that's like plus HP minus speed or something, and he has like Armored Blow, Quick Riposte 2 Moonbow, and you see him fail to kill a Sheena almost. Stuff like that happens on stream, and is usually actually quite hilarious. But it most of the time comes down to just having the patience to look through all your units and properly picking a counter for every hero. And also, of course, you can only do that if you prepare the counters for the meta. It takes a lot of patience and still investment in like 4-star foddering and such to go out of your way.
Right, and that is the other thing I guess I would just want to sort of emphasize, is that you are still getting all of these good scores, though, being a mostly free-to-play player. I honestly, with the amount of money that I have sunk in the game, I consider you free-to-play, so, even with the $14 investment, so, but regardless, like, you still have successful teams, being mostly free to play, being able to smartly inherit and merge your your soldiers, your units in.
Right.
So yeah, it's I find that amazing. I think it's great because it does show people that you can. And while you've had the benefit of starting since the beginning, the vast majority of the people playing the game have had that same benefit. Not everybody, but most people do. And so like it's just good to see that you can compete at the top and still not be dropping your wallet into this game every 2 weeks.
What I do think is important to mention is, while it is doable, like for example, right now I'm already on the verge of being in top 1000 every week. Like usually I have to reset I get my first run done on stream, and then midway through the week I realize, okay, this isn't gonna hold. I'm gonna have to re-roll, and then I go hard at the re-rolling off stream and basically re-roll scores until I get that first max score. Like I actually type my team into score calc to know what is my highest score. Re-roll for that. Once I have that, I go into it. And then sometimes it just happens, okay, I started 750, I have like a major struggle battle against some armors because my Hinata doesn't get to run Bonfire in max scoring, he has Ether. And then I see like Hinata dealing 0 damage to Wendy, and Wendy deals 0 damage to Hinata, and the matches take like 5 to 10 minutes long. It requires like 4 armors to have your bottom flooring be at 744. You can't get there without armors, basically.
Right.
And you need 4 unique armors too, because you can't use duplicates. You need, free to play, you would need Drog, Wendy, Sheena, and Effie. And I would have to plus 40 these characters. That's like a total of, what, 440,000 feathers?
Yeah.
Which is a crap ton, right? Even if I HM farmed, probably I would max out all my characters before I even get that amount of feathers. So, and then by the time I have it, the bar is raised by even more, because top 1000 is so competitive. Every month I'm sure new whales join in. I see new faces in the score ranges and so on. And the legendary heroes also don't really help, because they elevate the whales further from the free-to-plays, because you can't merge a legendary reliably as a free-to-play.
No, definitely not.
The way the legendary banners are structured, you can get 8 Spring Sanders before you get a Fjorm and so on. It's just, the whole system is basically against free-to-plays right now, I'd say. So pushing for that is probably already out of bounds. I'd say it's already in the range where you're probably trying to push too high, and you should probably just settle for like 3000, for example, and use the characters you like. That's also something I say in my example. Like, I love using Hinata, Oboro, and my Hoshiden characters, resembling my favorite game. I wouldn't enjoy playing the game if I replaced Hinata with Drog just because he gave most score, because it's not a character I enjoy using. So yeah.
And I talk with a lot of people who will come up to me about arena scoring and about how to actually get and stay in tier 20. And one of the first things I tell them is, I'm like, well, you're only missing a fistful of feathers. Bouncing between 19 or 20. You could jump into 20 one week, slide back down to 19, and if that doesn't bother them, I usually just emphasize that. It's only the people who are like really driven. They're like, no, I gotta be in tier 20. Yeah, like those are the people that be like, okay, well, let's go ahead and try to see what we can do to min-max your team and stuff like that. Because it is pretty rough otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, those people who have the ambition to go into tier 20 competitive, and then there's the I'd like to differentiate between the people that actually care for characters, and then there's those that absolutely play by tier lists, for example. Like, they actually go and look at, okay, Zelgius and Aira are the strongest characters, I'm gonna try and dump my orbs to get merges on these characters because they're gonna be reliable, they're gonna pull their weight for a long time, and so on. What I personally think is important to emphasize is people who are ambitious to stay in tier 20 should further look into how arena scoring is actually structured. There's like a couple of articles here and there out there. You actually have to dig in Google to find them, because it's not such a commonly treated topic. It is fairly complex. You'll see that most of the scoring actually comes from merges. Like, 5 extra BST is half a score. 1 merge is 1 score.
Yeah.
So in comparison, if you have a Hinata, say, and compare him to Drog has 10 BST more, basically, so he has 1 score more just through BST. But the merges themselves, if Hinata has 5 merges, he would have +5 score, where Drog has +0, and so on. So whether your unit is infantry BST or is an armored unit armored BST, the main difference will always come from the feathers, and that's why it's very important, extremely important to like have in mind your budget, and depending on your budget, you'll just have to make cuts depending on which heroes you use. If you can't afford spending $100 or so every month, then probably using more than one 5-star exclusive unit in your arena core is just not gonna make it, because you won't be able to reliably merge them.
Sort of funny whenever some people look at this and want to have instant gratification and just like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and grab the best build, put them on there, and I should be done. Well, it's funny. You're like trying to skip right to like some sort of end game that you are perceiving, you know? Whereas if people take the approach that you outline, you know, try, iterate, go through it, you're actually playing the game that you enjoy with a hero that you enjoy, following all of your advice.
You grow with them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so much more rewarding.
I have tried out so many Hinata builds, and I'm not even sure which one is the best one right now, because it's so situational. Like that's the great part about heroes, in my opinion, is there's so many skills. Yes, they are luxury resources. You need to actually hoard orbs. If you, for example, want the brazen attack defense, you need to hoard orbs and wait until the Christmas banner is rerun. Yeah. And then you need to actually have the luck to get the skill and not getting Lissa instead of Crom and so on, or getting Pity Broken. It's difficult, but part of it is also making do with the resources that you actually have, which is also exciting in my opinion. And we have so many great skills in the game, I think, that we're added. For example, Guard and Wrath are very, very strong skills, while Guard doesn't score as highly, which kind of sucks. It has a very big use against the bold fighter meta. Those skills all have applicances. It sucks, again, with the arena scoring, that you're basically forced into certain skills, like seeing Aether everywhere gets boring sometimes, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just, that's something where I actually wish they were going to rework arena scoring, but I mean, that's an entirely different topic that's difficult to pinpoint.
I think the only thing anyone can agree on with that is that arena scoring needs to change. That's where all the agreement ends, I think.
Yeah. I definitely would encourage you experiment, even with skills where you'd say, okay, I don't think these skills are all that great, and see where they go. I've seen a guy make a Drog work with like Steady Blow, the skill that Roy comes with the defense and speed +4 when initiating, and double Poison Strike, and you think, what, is he out of his mind? That doesn't deal any damage. And then suddenly, if you look at the armor meta, where the armors deal 0 damage to Drog, and Drog deals 0 damage to them, he's gonna Poison Strike them twice, and Poison Strike also scores really well. Stuff like that, you really wouldn't respect that at first. You would think, okay, that sounds like a joke. That's not the meta build. He's not using Steady Breath. He's not using Bolt Fighter, whatever. But you can really go out of your box. And I definitely think it's also important that you find joy in experimenting, because it's going to keep the game fresh for you for a very long time. You're going to find like a replayability in the game through trying out all these new skills that you previously didn't give a chance.
So with soloing, you really like.
Yes.
I mean, you talked about your team already. And Hinata is your absolute favorite. That's why you picked him first. Indeed.
So to give like a bit of background, I started playing with Awakening only, and I was like a super noob there. I let Farja die because I didn't understand you could recruit characters by talking to them, stuff like that. So that was an absolute train wreck, which I think Fire Emblem's first experience basically is. Your first experience is always going to be, oh god, this game is actually difficult, I need to get my mind into this, and such. And then Birthright was like a very great experience for me. I had some experience, but I was still relatively fresh, and Birthright is known for being very easy. And I came across this character, Hinata, and I liked him at first. He seemed a bit overshadowed by all the other samurais that are already in the game, but I took a liking to him because I somewhat found myself in his position. I'm also relatively easygoing, just fun, and trying to be a buddy to everyone, basically. So my connection mostly comes from he's my favorite, and that I like some reflection of him in myself, and I went from there. The reason why I solo is because I enjoy using my favorite character and keeping up with all the other people that show that they excel at the game AI and using their favorite to its fullest potential. But going out of your way, you can really find some unique strategies. For example, there's a Shanna solo runner, Alden. he managed to get a Camus solo, and Camus is known, the Infernal version is super difficult because all the horses are just clumped in one spot.
Yeah.
He managed to get a solo run by moving himself into the top left corner into the mountain range after killing the mages, and none of the horses could reach him anymore. That's a relatively unique strategy, and he managed to get away with that, where other characters couldn't get away. Or, for example, for Sias, I was able to do it heal-less, where many heroes weren't able to do it heal-less, just through AI manipulation, and my Ignis is being so big I can one-shot Sias, I can kill the blue armor in 2 hits, and so on. So, I think a lot of the frustration comes from when you can't do it, but if you try really hard and put your heart into it, you will also see that your character has strengths that other people don't have. Namely, for Hinata, for example, the 45 defense, which many other characters can't support naturally.
Mm-hmm. I tell people often that no, I come up with really strong builds to compensate for my lack of tactical skill. It served me well, but yeah, looking at how you guys do that's incredible. So yeah, quick congratulations to you and everybody in the community, but to you for being able to do this. That's very impressive.
So, like, the entire community, including the solo runners as well as the fans, they're the ones who constructed this whole thing, and it's like a self-sustaining cycle of soloists and watchers that makes this whole thing really enjoyable. And it's just a close experience with other people. There's the guy that likes Hana. I also like that guy because likes Hoshiden characters and so on. You make connections through that, so it's a great part of the community that I appreciate a lot. Oh, I actually am curious, how do you go about building defense teams for Arena? Because I think that's a science of its own that's not very common.
It is.
And because there is no replay functionality and no way to know, okay, what did they actually die to? You basically need to just go from, okay, how many defense wins do I get? And then sometimes you get 7 defense wins, and then the next week you don't get anyone, like a single one at all, and you're like, oh, what did change now?
Yeah. No, there's...
So how do you go about that?
There's so much that goes into creating defensive teams, and sometimes I have a really crappy one just because of the bonus heroes that are out or whatnot. Right. One thing to keep in mind is that every season the maps are changing. So if you do get a set, if you end up having a season where you're just getting win after win, and then next season it stops, it's because of the way the maps are. It's separating your heroes or it's clustering them together in a way that that particular set of builds is no longer giving anyone any trouble with. So ideally, I adjust my defensive team every season based upon what set of maps are in rotation, so that I know where they would start together, likely ways that they could be pooled, and I try to. That's one thing that I'm constantly doing. Even if I'm not changing the team, I'll at least reorder them so that they will adhere better to that. A lot of people I've seen just say, like, oh, this is my arena team. I put them on defense and I run them in arena. That's terrible. you ideally, and sometimes I can't necessarily because bonus heroes, whatnot, and luck of the draw. But ideally, you want to have a completely separate team for them, just because that way, or you can go ahead and rearrange the skills if you want, but that'll drive you mad after a few seasons. It did me. Right. Certain skills end up holding so much better weight in the hands of the AI. You can and adjusting that way. Like, a lot of people really like Fury, and I hate putting Fury on most builds that a player...
Go ahead, save Hinatas.
yes, please save the Hinatas. I really don't like using Fury, but I will say that actually on defensive teams, Fury ends up holding a lot more weight, and I think that's where a lot of people see it, is first of all, it goes to all the stats that are like, hey, this is great, and then the one-hit kill kind of nature of Arena, buffing all of your stats, that 6 extra damage is not a problem, because if that person didn't kill you, they've already messed up.
I mean, there's definitely like 2 types of people out there. That's why I know I got done, and then there's people who are ambitiously trying to make the coolest defense team they can make that gets the most wins. Mm-hmm. And I personally am one of those people, because I also aspire to find people in Arena who actually have challenging teams and unique teams. Like, when I see a Soph in 750 and not just 4 armors all the time, I'm like, oh cool, Soph, that's actually unique. And then he has like wind sweep, close counter, and he like gets his patch cats going, and then you're just suddenly, oh crap, my whole team is debuffed, his entire team is buffed, and everything goes downhill from there. And then you're really just like, oh, that was actually really fun for me to battle against this guy because it was so unique. There's a thing that I think is not very spread that you can do that's actually very applicable for everyone. You can just take your defense team, go into a random arena assault match, you end the first turn, the enemy moves, and then you press auto battle and you see how AI fares with the team. And then you're gonna see, oh my god, AI does such weird and bad choices with my team, and that you can analyze from there and find out what works and what doesn't work. For example, you'd see, okay, my Noe, if she had Fury Vantage there instead of Steady Brave Quick Riposte, she would have gotten that kill, and so on and so on. So, and I agree with you that it's frustrating to some degree that you actually have no way of actually, you know, understanding where the wins come from. Are you just lucky? Is your defense team actually proving to be worth it? It's difficult. Yeah,
it is something, because I know there's been times where I've lost to a team that maybe I shouldn't have, because I was like in the middle of rushing between doing one thing or another, and it's like, oh, it's Monday, let me go ahead and finish this up. Oh, I died real quick, you know. And other times it's like, well, was it a hard fought fight? Were they dancing? Were they moving around? Did they get cornered? You know, those are way different scenarios there, you know. And it might be funny to watch somebody move their Zelgius up to try to tank a Naui and die, you know, haha, that's fun, but yeah, there's a big difference between those two scenarios. Right. But one thing you were talking about, I'm a big proponent, and it takes forever to talk about it as a whole, but I'm a big proponent of going against the meta on defensive teams. And shortcut is deceptive, but a shortcut is a way to think this way is to actually come up with a themed team. Like Black Fang, I see several Black Fang teams for some reason, I guess just really popular. But
that's a good example.
But yeah, trying to do that, or trying to come up with like a proper Lucina emblem or Crom emblem team, like something like that has a theme to it. Not only are they fun to fight against, but if you're actually sitting there trying to make them work, you end up going enough against the meta that you end up catching people off guard all the time. Yes. And that's where it's at.
I agree entirely. Like, that's the most exciting part. You actually get to face the beauty of the game, which is all these different characters you can build to your entire liking, and everybody has their own preferences and their own builds and so on that they experimented with, and it's fun. Right. And it's much more exciting than when you fight against a Steady Breath Quick Riposte Noe every second map, and you're just thinking, okay, I have a counter in my team against that, I can just put them in front, and it's the same thing every single time. Going with a theme team is a really great way of having a unique defense team. You don't even have to merge it, right? You can put up a challenge for people at lower score ranges without any drawback, and that's the great part about it.
So this has been very great, Evenness. Thank you so much. Tell everybody... Oh yeah, absolutely. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Alright, so you can check out my channel, which is youtube.com/user/wow Evenness. And I also have, as mentioned, a Twitch channel over at twitch.tv/Evenness, where I stream weekly about, again, Arena and Arena Assault mostly. Come hang out if you want to have fun.
That's awesome. Thanks again, Evenness.
Thanks as well. Have fun, Deltran.